Hi there, I'm Jason Medlock, and I'm the host of the Expansion of Consciousness. I started this podcast maybe 3 years ago. We're on season 3. And the podcast is really designed to help people expand their consciousness. And that may be in your everyday life, that may be in business, that may be moving away from a situation that could have been life-threatening, expanding your thought process, using spiritual modalities, using these modalities to help enhance your mindset. I moved into the coaching arena because I learned how to change my everyday life. And I started showing other people how they can do the same thing. Log on to Expansion of Consciousness on YouTube at Expansion of Consciousness. And if you want to know more information about this wonderful event where I'll be honored, log on to pwetv.com. pwetv.com. We'll see you there. Good afternoon and welcome to the Expansion of Consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. We have a fabulous guest tonight, Alara. She is a beautiful spirit, beautiful soul that works within the sexuality side, the love side of our being, of our essence. And it's so wonderful to have a change of pace so that we can cover a number of different people who use the modality in different ways to help other people. So this is going to be very, very exciting. Alara is a female leader, and she works with females who are trying to expand themselves, a visionary and creative who are highly successful, but feel unfulfilled and lonely in love, in life, and relationships. Alara helps people, women in particular, reawaken their sexual power as women so that they can magnetize deep, intimate connection, pleasure, and wealth without sacrifice. Just being intuitively gifted, being a mentor for women, a teacher, and a healer who coaches provocatively and soulfully. Alara has over 15 years of experience helping others reignite and transform their own lives. Most importantly, she has walked the walk. Without any further ado, let's bring on Alara. Hey there, how are you today?
Hey, Jason, I'm so happy to be here. I have to say, I really love your introduction. It makes me want to go out and conquer the world.
Alara, everyone says that. And sometimes when I'm doing the intro and I have you guys sit in the back office, I see some of the guests doing like this, like, yeah, all right, I love that. So that's wonderful. But I'm happy to have you on. I'm a fan of your show, and I watch and I'm like, man, I need to try to make sure I can get me some coaching or get some things that can help me change my life. And I know that you work with women, but hopefully one day you include men in your in the people that you work with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. I've learned to never say never.
Exactly. So, I know that you talk about playfulness and being open to your creative potential. Feeling fulfilled. A number of things that you talk about that you're able to help people with. Manifesting their sexual energy. Things like that. Can you tell me? And I know that you may have started off understanding the gifts and understanding how to grow the gifts that you have currently, that we all have. But talk to me about the journey on how you establish the know that I can do certain things all the way up until now.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Jason, but I was able to do a lot as a child. I
Yes.
actually, when I was a child, without understanding what I was doing, I did a lot of lucid dreaming. I have this really fun thing that I used to do when I was a child where I really loved candy. And I would lucid dream and I would be like, all right, I'm going to put my candy bar in my dream next to my bed. And I'm going to wake up and it's going to be there. And I was, like, certain that I could do it, and I didn't ever accomplish it, unfortunately, but I had this deep knowing. I also had deep knowing that I could heal and that I could speak to animals, and I had a lot of beings around me that I could speak to, that I saw and that I could speak to, but that was when I was quite little. And then somewhere along the way, I lost contact with those sides of myself. And I lost contact with my own personal power and my pleasure and my joy. I lost contact with so much of myself. And, there was a point where I actually became chronically ill because of how much I had really come out of alignment with my own self. And so I really started at that point on my spiritual journey and, through the path of awakening. And early on in my spiritual journey, I had a really profound experience. At the time, I was working on horses, doing physical therapy to horses.
Yes.
And I got in my car and I was going to go drive to see the horses. And I heard my higher self tell me to Om 3 times. Now,
Hmm.
at the time, that wasn't like a practice of mine. I did meditate, but I wasn't oming all the time. But I listened. And so I like took a nice deep breath. Om, all the way to the end 3 times. And at the end of that third Om, an energy shot through my body, out my crown, and I went into a full body orgasm. I mean, my
Wow.
whole body was shaking with orgasm to the point that I obviously had to pull the car over.
Right.
I couldn't even really, like, handle myself, and I was in orgasm for a couple of minutes. Now, mind you, at this time of my life, I was largely unorgasmic in my sexual, expression in my sexual relations. So, this was a really big deal. I had never experienced such a massive orgasm. I'd never experienced my whole body being lit in orgasm, and I had no idea what had happened to me. For the rest of the day, I was in this, like, ecstatic bliss that I was like, "Oh my god," I was so lit. I was so blissed out. And then, interestingly enough, for the next 6 months of my life, I was all over the place. My emotions, what had happened to me was a kundalini awakening. I didn't know what kundalini was at the time. And what happens when the kundalini goes
And
through
I've
your
read that. That's why
yeah.
I'm interested to hear. I've read that before.
Yes, I was one of them.
Yes.
When the kundalini goes to your body, it releases it's like fire moving through your body. It
Yes.
releases a lot of stored trauma, a lot of
Absolutely.
stored emotions. And for 6 months, I was like, one minute I'd be happy, the next minute I'd be rageful, the next minute I'd be on the floor crying and weeping. I mean, I was an emotional mess, and I had considered myself to be a very emotionally stable person, which AKA was just me shoving down my emotions at the time. Emotional stability meant not feeling my emotions. And so through this process, all this was happening. I honestly felt like, am I going insane? And I kept kind of checking in. And the message that I got from my higher self, luckily I was very connected at the time, was like, no, just keep letting the emotions move through you. And you're not going insane. And so after about 6 months, it started to settle down. It started to come back into a state of harmony. And as the universe so beautifully works, a book dropped into my lap called The Kundalini Awakening. And it had a a chapter in
Yeah.
there about the spontaneous Kundalini awakening, and that's how I learned what I had gone through.
Wow. Okay, now for the audience who may have said, "Did she just say orgasm?" But for the
Mm.
audience, explain to them. And I know you brushed on it. Well, the Kundalini and what exactly it is, because when you said that, I instantly said that sounds like Kundalini fire. And lo and behold, you talked about the Kundalini awakening. In that book, I have that book. And can you go in a little in more in depth on what that actually is and what it feels like?
Yes. So Kundalini Shakti is an energy that we all carry. It's a deeply
Yes.
healing energy. It's signified with the two serpents that cross through our bodies in our Western society, in our culture, by the medical system. You know, it has the cross with the two serpents. That's
Mhm.
actually the symbolism of Kundalini because it's the original symbol of self-healing. Unfortunately, there's a disconnect there in the Western society, but that's actually the symbol. And so Kundalini is the what it actually is it's the primordial feminine energy.
Mhm.
And it's creative life force energy. It's pure creative life force. And so it sits right in our body. If you think about the very base of your body where your perineum is and where your root chakra is, it sits right above that. And the movement of the Shakti is through your body. It kind of spirals and moves in and out. And then ultimately, through its process, it ultimately comes out the crown. And in the tantric teachings, this is tantra. That's where the feminine meets the masculine, and there is divine union.
Mm. And I know that you talk about sexual energy and using it to manifest and creative potential. So my next question is, how does playfulness? And I've read some great things you've written, but how does playfulness open our creative potential? How does that work in
Mm.
play?
I love this conversation about playfulness because playfulness actually opens up three of our primary creator centers, which is
Hmm.
our sacral chakra in our pelvis, our heart, and our third eye. And so, what playfulness does is first one sacral chakra. It brings us into the moment, right? When you're being playful, you're totally immersed in the moment, and you're in that childlike energy of wonder and curiosity. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is it really ignites our joy, which also here in the heart is deeply connected to our purpose and why we're really here in this life.
Right.
And then thirdly, it connects our imagination. If you remember as a child, you were highly imaginative. And one of the ways that we create our reality is through imagination. We imagine and we see, we're always creating images in our mind and we're projecting those images into our physical reality. And so through the act of playfulness, we're engaging that imagination, but we're engaging that imagination with the energy of joy and presence and curiosity and wonder. So it's just a really magnificent energy to play in and to activate your manifestations, your vibration. It raises your frequency and just to really like shift yourself into higher consciousness.
And I'm sure you use this on a lot of your clients and teach them how to use it effectively, and it helps them move in different directions in their life, maybe feeling fulfilled. And one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about. So, what is the key to that? That feeling that you get of being fulfilled in life. Is there one thing that you can point to that would help someone understand what that feels like and what the key to feeling fulfilled is?
Yeah. So to me, the key to feeling fulfilled and to experience regular, like constant fulfillment in life is a deep connection to ourselves.
Mm.
So when we think of intimacy, when we think of connection, when we think of relationship, we're always thinking about outside of ourselves. We're thinking about other people. Uh, we might be thinking about the relationship with our business or with our job. We might be thinking about our relationship to money. But really all of those are simply reflections of the relationship to ourself. And through my own personal process, and when I'm working with women, what always happens is we're taken back to really early childhood, from like 3 to 6 years of age, where, that's a really powerful time. If you think about, that's kind of where we're moving from little kid and kind of like baby, and we're starting to wake up and we're starting to have emotion, right? Like we call it the terrible twos, which is an extraordinary expression of our society, right? So in these very early years, we're starting to have expression of our emotion and of our creative being, and we're often shut down.
You
We're
know,
often
oh, I'm sorry. Go. I'm sorry.
well, we're often just shamed or guilted or denied that power of our authenticity.
Mm. 0 to 6, 0 to 7. Uh, the subconscious mind guides us. It it absorbs everything around us and formulates, the way we view the world, the way we view ourselves. And at around 7 years old, 8 years old, the conscious mind takes over. So I can see how the creative energy would be so strong between that 0 to 6 years old. That's very, very interesting. But another point, Alara, would to me, I would think that those years would be a very vulnerable time for a child, even from 7 to 12. Vulnerability would come into play on how they absorb what's around them in the way that they'll live their life, whether they'll be successful, whether that person will be a depression type situation, or um, um, anxiety type situation. We're just shaped with different things that happen around us, while we're growing. But the key is vulnerability. And I guess my question would be, what is vulnerability to you? How would you describe that and put it in perspective?
Yeah, I have a very unique description and definition of vulnerability. And so to me, vulnerability is our ability to be open and accepting of ourselves. Again, we think of vulnerability as other people, but
Yes.
everything starts here with the self. And the beauty of it is when you understand this and you learn how to accept yourself, vulnerability with others just happens. It's very, very easy. It's not a big deal. It's not scary. It's not awkward. It just is, because as I mentioned, from those 3 to 6 years of age, when I'm working with clients, we're connecting to parts of themselves that they deemed unacceptable, not
Hmm.
okay, too much, too loud, too noisy, to whatever it was. And they really learned that who they are is not okay. And we've all shut ourselves down in the energy of shame, guilt, unacceptance. And so that vulnerability is, first off, the willingness to see ourself, right? The willingness to see our own wounding, the willingness to see our own pain and trauma, and accept ourselves, love ourselves within that. And that, as I mentioned, gives us access to be vulnerable to others, but it also creates deep compassion for others and their pain and their trauma and the things that they've gone through.
So, audience, vulnerability is good. It's a
Yeah.
good thing. It helps grow you. And it's almost like, Alara, with men and with any of us humans, when we don't grow up accessing our emotions, we're taught to men to be tough, don't cry, work through that. But what it does, it suppresses our emotions, and we are late to understand our psychic abilities, our abilities to do different things, because we can't feel emotionally natural. So I am, you know, happy in my later years to proudly say that I've made myself vulnerable. I've made myself open, and I've made myself be able to experience emotions. And that's how we grow quickly in our spiritual walk.
Absolutely. I love how you bring that forward, because when we can't feel, we can't feel, right? And emotions are a feeling sensation, and the world of energy and the world in itself, like this very moment, is ripe with sensation. And this is how we learn to be pleasurable and orgasmic in life, is the ability to open up to the pleasure that exists. But if we are shut down, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to be vulnerable. We're shut down because we fear emotion, or we've been told that emotion is not safe. We're not available to feel the sensuality, the pleasure, the orgasm, the bliss that exists within every single moment.
It's strange that that it's not strange. It's funny that you talk about orgasms and the bliss of sexual. Have you ever astro traveled?
Yes.
Okay. Have you read Dr. Bob Monroe's books? Far Journeys, Journey Beyond. I don't know if you ever
No.
heard Dr. Anyway, he talks about leaving his body, and he talks about one of the times him and his wife had a couple that were staying over at the house, and he left his body, and and he said that the couple that was staying over with them for the weekend, the wife of the friend obviously left her body too. So he was able to see her in the spiritual realm. And Alara, you know what they did? They
I
they
can
they
imagine.
they touched
Hmm.
spirits. See, sexual pleasure for
Hmm.
humans is, a feeling of bliss, but it's 100 times magnified, 100 million times magnified when it's a spirit. And when spirits have these sexual orgasms, they only touch. And I got that from reading Bob Monroe's book, and it was absolutely fascinating. And when I hear you talk about this topic, it draws me back to, in the spiritual realm, they have sex, but it's not the way we perceive it in the physical realm. And it's very interesting that when they do it, it is a glorious moment and it's only a touch. Have you heard anything like that?
I haven't to that particular, but the interesting thing and what that really brings to my awareness is, I've through my process, I've spent a lot of time connecting with the mother being Gaia, our planet, and the mother being the great
Yes.
mother, the cosmic mother. And one of the things that the mother told me was, the universe is always having sex with itself, right? It's
Hmm.
always in the mode of creation. And I was like, oh yeah, that's so obvious, right? When you think of it like that, we have such a stigma against sex in humanity. But then the best thing was, is she said, this was, many weeks later, maybe even a month later or so, she was like, and I'm always in orgasm. And she gave me, Jason, I mean, it was probably like a grain of sand on a massive beach worth of her orgasm. And my body couldn't even handle it. And
Wow.
she is always in this state of orgasmic bliss, and that's what she is creating from it. It like gives me a bliss hit right now. I get totally orgasmic right now at the level of magnitude and greatness of her orgasm. So yes, I completely agree with you, and I experienced it on a very tiny level.
And for the audience, Mother Gaia, Mother Earth consciousness. And yes, Mother Earth has a consciousness. And my spiritual teacher, Chloe Moores, connected to the consciousness of Earth quite often. And it would talk about how it was disappointed that we were eating the animals and how the animals were savaging each other. I didn't build this planet for that. And I was amazed, Alara, as my spiritual teacher, when she went in, we were in a session, and when she connected to Mother Earth, because what we were doing is she was bringing more energy to me because she was doing a, somewhat of a Reiki session. We call it galactic healing energy. And to hear you talk about Gaia, Mother Gaia, and I'm like, man, there are a lot of synergies right here, and it is so special. I want to ask you a question. What do you do to move yourself into that moment? Are you meditating? Are you doing yoga? Or you just are you doing any kind of self hypnosis? How do you get to that moment where you're able to access some of the wonderful gifts that we all have?
Yeah, at this point, it's just I can do it at any given moment. I don't need to do anything. I can access it, and I can even access orgasm on, quote unquote command. And what I want to say to that, just for listeners, is it's a lot about permission. We have to give ourselves permission to access these energies within ourselves, give ourselves permission to even begin the conversation of connection. But yes, I mean, I meditate every single day. Just because I really enjoy that space. I make sure to have a lot of playfulness in my life. And I really live my life what I call per the feminine way. I live my life in a very fluid and graceful manner that is guided 100% by my intuition. I don't do anything because I feel like I should or have to, or because it's logical or it makes sense. I let my intuition guide me, and that keeps me very connected in the moment and rooted in an alignment. And so everything else is very, very simple and easy for me.
The playfulness that we all have is it resonates. Now, I remember reading the 12 archangels by Elizabeth Womack, and all she alluded to, here and there throughout the book, was the playful child within the heart space, the child within the heart, and how it wants to come out and it wants to be playful. And it's just so strikingly similar to some of the things that you're able to do and the way that you use that particular technique with your clients. But this sexual thing it's more than just the word. I mean, the Kundalini fire is real. That's no joke. That is real, and it happens. I guess I'm interested to know, Alara, what is sexual magic, and how can we access it? Or how do we access it?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about understanding, Shakti, Kundalini Shakti is, but usually that's kind of just like a terminology, right? That a lot of people can't really connect to. Okay. Like that makes sense. That's what Kundalini Shakti is, but I don't know how to connect to that in my own body. How do I do that? What do I need to do? And so one of the avenues that I use to help my clients really to activate and access their Kundalini Shakti is through their sexual energy, because all sexual energy is Kundalini Shakti. Not all Kundalini Shakti is sexual energy. So we understand sexual energy. We understand how to cultivate that within ourselves to whatever degree each person does. So through the process of connecting, and really, I work with women very much in their bodies and connecting to their sexual energy, connecting to their sexual power, and learning how to bring that orgasm and that energy up through their bodies. And
Mhm.
just as I mentioned, our three creative centers, you can then learn to direct that powerful, pure, I want to reiterate, Shakti is creative life force energy. It's the pure creative life force energy. You can direct that energy through intention and through imagination at whatever you desire to. And it's a very pure energy. And when you're in orgasm and when you're in bliss, it's a very, like Mother Gaia said, it's very, very profound and very, very powerful. So that's really what sexual magic is. It's using your sexual energy combined with intention to direct that creative life force energy into your reality.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick reset. You're listening to the expansion of consciousness. I am Jason Medlock, and our guest tonight is Alara Sage, guru over a number of different spiritual topics, but mostly helping women understand their sexual energy, understand the magic they possess from within. And what we're going to do now, Alara, let's look at this right here. Now, who is that?
That's me.
That's you. I'm pointing to my screen. So, talk about your workshops. Talk about the events you have coming up. How can people get in contact with you? Give it to us all.
Yeah, definitely. So the primarily way right now I'm working with people is one-on-one because I really like the deep intimacy. I'm also doing some groups, but those aren't really activated right now. So my one-on-one, the Rock Your Sexy Intensive, it is where I really take women through this journey of activating themselves, activating the 8 gates of their womb, deepening into their body, understanding who they are uniquely, brilliantly, connecting to their sexual power, connecting to their sexual magic. It's absolutely transformative. It transforms every single area of their life. But most importantly, it really connects to them to that fulfillment we spoke of. So they really have that fulfillment. They have that deep connection, intimacy with themselves, which then cultivates that within everybody else and everything else in their life. And, I also do a lot of full moon events because I'm also a sound healer. I use my voice to heal, and I just really do them because I love them. So people can always check out the events to see if I have anything going on right now. And I always have some workshops that are available that are always there, always available for people to kind of taste test what I do and who I am. But they are all very, very powerful. The container that I create is massively transformational.
Well, let's hear what Alara has to say. We've heard what the live Alara has to say. Let's hear what the Alara here has to say.
In this workshop, we're going to go over presence, which I like to call spiritual kung fu, the be here now. We're also going to go over and help you to be able to recognize tension in the bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. Nobody speaks about this, and yet it's so important to be able to deeply relax, to empower yourself in the moment and in your life. We're also going to talk about embodiment. What is embodiment and how is it valuable to you? We speak about higher self, higher mind, higher consciousness. If you want to live your highest potentiality, you've got to understand and experience embodiment. Then we're going to learn to let go. Learn to let go in the bodies. Learn to use your breath, something you can do anywhere at any time to release tension and step into relaxation. And finally, we're going to do a very, very powerful healing transmission that you can use over and over again to enter into much deeper states of relaxation and reprogram your bodies and your vagus nerve to now function at relaxation instead of tension. It's time for you to live your highest life. And this is where it starts.
I am breath work. That just made me smile. And you were back there dancing a little bit. But breath work is important, Alara.
Yeah, I just got turned on by myself. Yes, breath work is important.
Yes, breath work is important. It allows you can actually move yourself into different dimensions if you do the right type of breath work. I typically work with Kalapate breath. Uh, the fast movement of breath up your nostril, which you hold and then you breathe. I'm a TMer, transcendental meditator. Do you breathe? And each time you do it, in my experience, it moves my consciousness that much more. It makes it that much more open, and it's almost like I'm experiencing some type of euphoria. And when I use this, it activates and or stimulates my pineal gland, and I'm able to move into a remote viewing session. I'm able to move into a QHHT session. I'm a practitioner with the hypnosis, quantum healing. So I'm able to move into these sessions with total control. What does breath work do for you?
Breathwork to me is a real connection between our subtle energy fields, our higher consciousness, and our human form.
Mm.
So, I spent so much time meditating, kind of cruising out of my body. And then I learned to bring it all down into this moment, down into this life. So I teach people to use their breath to really connect to their body and connect to the moment. And like I said in the video, like really relax yourself and then activate yourself, ignite yourself, turn yourself on in that orgasm, in that bliss, and create your life with that.
Alara, what stops some of us from experiencing deep, intimate connection with ourselves and others. And, people have so many hangups and they're dealing with so many issues. What stops us?
Yeah, to me, again, it's like that conversation we talked about of those early childhood years,
Mm,
and really just where we don't fully accept who we are in our authentic, unique fractal of consciousness. And so when we're able to really look at the shame that we carry about ourselves, the judgment and criticism of where we carry about ourselves, then we're able to really release those and really just open up like a flower, that just blossoms, and the innermost intricacies of our beauty is revealed.
It sounds like some of the clients I work with, they deal with the imposter syndrome, and it sort of sounds a little bit like that. And obviously, my title says performance mindset. And one of the things I try to do is to change or to help people change their habits so that they can move into a different mindset. Um, and I know you're a coach as well. I want you to talk to the audience about, your coaching program, and maybe the steps that you take to help these women move into a better place, move into a better understanding of themselves.
Yeah. So a lot of the women I work with are really ambitious women. They're very successful in life, and they have really learned that their value and their worth is based on what they achieve, their success, all of these external factors. And so when I work with women, I'm helping them to, again, reconnect to themselves. It's all about, I call it Tantra with the self, because it's really the unification with the self. And so that they can learn to let go of valuing themselves per the external, and learn how, as I mentioned, that my life is, it's learning how to follow your intuition and flow, which is a fluid. It's very, very graceful. It's extremely powerful. Don't misunderstand that it is a sitting around or not creating. It's the most creative you can possibly be. It is your most powerful state, but it is a place of arising. It is how divine love, creation moves through
Yes.
us, rather than concepts of what we need to obtain, get, to in order to be valued. So I help women totally shift from that external to the internal and learn how to really connect to that power, and their lives change in absolute grace. Their lives become easy, fluid. The struggle falls away. They no longer are trying to obtain things outside of themselves, but their creativity explodes. A lot of my clients write books or become very creative, even though they never thought that they were.
When the love moves through them, I smiled on that because love is so powerful and it's so essential to everything that we do. And I was thinking a minute when you were talking, and I'm like, okay, Alara is really, really moving people to that creative side, to that sexual energy side, and I'm trying to get your mindset and perform and be at the optimal level. So, how does someone move from a performance mindset, which is something that I'm really passionate about, but into a pleasure mindset, something that comes so easily for you to impress upon someone.
Yeah, it's definitely about permission, about
Yes.
learning, about connecting to ourselves so we know our intuition, we know the guidance, because I have guidance every single action that I'm taking. It's not blind, it's deeply and divinely guided. So it's about connecting to that guidance and then really giving ourselves permission to live this way. Our
Mm.
society does not understand this, and how you beautifully connected when we allow that divine love through us. That's what creates that feeling and sensation of orgasm. That's why I get lit all the time. And so it's about connecting to ourselves, connecting to our intuition, and then giving ourselves permission to live a life that is pleasurable, live a life that is enjoyable, live a life that is blissful, that is orgasmic, that is ecstatic. That is what our capacity here is as humans. That is what we are here to do. And that is a new era of consciousness that we're moving into.
Absolutely. And you speak about giving ourselves permission. And I want the audience to understand that our spirit guides are here with us every day. Source is with us every day. We have guardian angels that are with us every day. But humans have free will, and you must give permission for them to intervene in your life, for them to make a difference in your life so that you can move in a different direction. And it just doesn't happen. You must give permission. And I love that you talk about that. And I know we're pushed up on the wall for time. I like to be around that 43-minute mark for our YouTube algorithm. But is there anything else you can leave the audience with? Maybe it's a free gift. Maybe it's a come to my workshop, or maybe it's some tips on how they can experience this playfulness, experience this sexual energy that's in all of us.
Yes, I actually do have a free gift. It's a 3-part video series of deepening into self-trust, because this is how we enable this life that we're speaking of. This is how we enable our gifts and our ability to communicate and our ability to flow and grow and expand. So it's a 3-part series. It'll really take people into that process of deepening into their self-trust so that they can start this journey first and foremost with themselves, as always.
Super. Again, you can reach Alara at Alara Sage, www.alarasage.com, www.alarasage.com. All you beautiful women out there, um, I, I would, I would definitely call her. She would definitely be my coach, because if you are able to impact the inner soul, the inner functions of a woman, so they can be the best that they can be. That's provocative, and that's something that I would want. And I know that the women who are listening will look at this very closely and want it as well.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I'm going to move you to the back, Alara, and you stay there. Don't go anywhere. Okay, stay right there, and I'm going to wrap this thing up. What a wonderful, wonderful session with Alara Sage. And I told you guys, we're going to bring you a multitude of coaches, of spiritual teachers, of business people who have worked to expand their consciousness, who have worked to expand the different modalities that they work in. Over 15 years of experience helping people and reigniting and transforming people's lives. Alara is about all of that. She's gifted. She's a teacher. She's a healer. She's a person that you can use to reach whatever level you're trying to reach, provocatively and soulfully. I love some of the things that she does. I'm not a woman, but if I was, I definitely use her services. But I want to thank you for listening to the expansion of consciousness and being a loyal subscriber. Don't forget, you can watch our show on YouTube. Just type in at expansion of consciousness, at expansion of consciousness. Subscribe so that you can get the automatic show updates and you know when we're coming on. We're on Monday, we're on Wednesday and Thursday. But what a great guest, and what another great show. And I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you very much for following us. We love you. Good night.